Welcome back to Softcore History. I'm your host for the week, Dan Regester, joined as always by Rob Fox.
What's up?
How we doing?
I'm doing great. Drinking some beers. I'm ready to just chit-chat about history on this Sunday night. I'm feeling good. I only feel happy on the mic. I only feel happy when I'm getting attention.
You turn it up.
So when I'm at home and I'm the one that has to give all the attention.
You did come into the studio and you're like, I need a beer now.
I literally, I was walking like Charlie Brown with a six-pack in my hand, and I was like, I just got to crack this open.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm on the microphone. People are paying attention to me on the internet, and I'm getting drunk because I'm an alcoholic.
Maybe not Charlie Brown, but Linus dragging his blankie.
No, it was Charlie. Yeah, I guess because I was dragging a six-pack, yeah. Either way, the music was playing.
Today we're going to talk about something that's kind of in the news.
Okay.
Try to make it as topical as possible because those seem to do better.
People like a little. The whole reason I like history is because it allows me to look at something happening and be like, "Has this happened before?"
Right.
And also to be
It calms me down. It's
It
just
does.
like, why am I getting upset about this?
like people have lived through this type of bullshit before. Whether
History doesn't repeat, it rhymes.
honestly, it seems like it just repeats a lot too.
It might just repeat too.
It's a little bit of A, a little bit of B.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just allows you to look at something and be like, yeah, whatever. All right.
We'll make it through this.
Yeah.
What about China?
What about them?
What about China?
We going back-to-back Chinas? I guess you did China on the Patreon, but still.
Yeah, on Patreon we did some baddie that killed her entire family
Like 10 times over.
to take power.
A lot
in
of
the
matricide
700s.
in that one. Or not matricide, infanticide, I guess.
So
even though
check
they
that
weren't
out. It's a good episode.
Yeah.
So we'll just get into it. Post-Revolutionary War England is in a bit of a bind. Not only are they cash poor, having spent a meaty portion of their national treasury on the conflict with the colonies. Take that L.
And by the way, a long Revolutionary War was like 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Like it was not. I feel like Americans have a view of war that's like kind of short because our two most famous wars were basically 4 years long, right? You know, you wrap it up in 4 years. World War II, Civil War. We were only in World War I for like two
Cup
years.
of coffee.
Yeah, really a cup of coffee. And like Mexican War, 2 years. I mean, we fought a lot of short wars, but the Revolution and Vietnam were the two super long ones. I guess GWOT was too, but that was kind of like not the same. I feel like I put that in a different category than like Nam or
Yeah, anything we don't necessarily lose, but we kind of give up on, I just check out. I'm like, it doesn't count.
it just
It's
wasn't.
not a real war.
It wasn't the same.
We took over Iraq in like 3 weeks. All right?
And then we were just like popping off on insurgents. I mean, there were big battles after that, like Fallujah and shit like that. But even honestly, Fallujah was a brutal battle, but like in the grand scheme of things, not big.
If we aren't coming out clean, I don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, we fought a lot of cut and dry wars too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess the
I
Revolution
don't want
was-
any nuance. I want us to either win or not acknowledge
It's
it.
a Marvel movie. That's what you want.
Yeah.
Good guy win, bad guy lose.
And there's clearly a bad guy in the Middle East.
Yeah, there's a couple.
The Crown also lost one of its most reliable sources for both goods and revenue. New economic opportunities were essential, so the Brits went east. Far east.
It was because it wasn't the colonies weren't just a production house. Like they made money trading with the colonies.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like you sold things to a pretty big population, all things considered,
Right.
and a population that was like yours and was happy to deal with you.
And they're also growing your cotton, your tobacco.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like income. So imagine if like you just like people with tariffs now are constantly like, we got to make things in America, you know, like, but so England, if stuff was getting made in the colonies, things were kind of getting made in England, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're not.
Let's say you bought a house just to rent out, make a little extra income. You're on that entrepreneur grind.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, they evict you from the house you bought. The people that were renting from you.
That doesn't compute because if you're on grind culture, you never get evicted.
Yeah.
Eviction is Latin for opportunity.
But I'm saying the people that were renting from you
Yeah,
are just like, this is our house now.
yeah.
And then legally, they win the process.
I mean,
And now you're out the house.
it's kind of like it's you own the house, but they built it and have been living in it the entire time. You just owned it,
Yeah, dude.
but
Being
they
a
did
landlord.
everything. They did all the work.
Do you not respect landlords?
Yeah, I always tip my landlord.
You have to tip
I mean,
your
I don't have a
landlord.
landlord, but I always
Yeah.
tip the bank.
Dude, it's insane. Actually, every apartment I've lived in Austin or like the Austin area has an additional like service fee to pay rent. It's insane. It's asinine.
Oh yeah, you have a processing fee for paying rent.
I have no other option but to pay online.
Right.
And they tack on all these little extra fees.
This is why there's ups and downs, but to both. But this is why it always cracks me up when people shit on small landlords.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like guys who just own a couple houses or like a condo or something like that.
Which is what I was talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, those are the best fucking places to live.
You can pay them straight cash. I remember in college, $290 cash.
It's magical.
Mm-hmm.
I miss my college rent, which was I would get my refund check for my loan, and it would be like however much money, and I would take the whole, like I would pay a whole year's rent up front and then just never have to worry about it. I would just like write him a check for, it was not very much either. It was like $2,000 for the year, or so, maybe like $2,500 for the year, and it was just like done.
We're tacking fees and tips on everything.
Yeah.
My friend Shay, I went in and like paid or like put some money on her son's lunch account.
Yeah.
They had like a $4 service fee.
For what?
For no reason.
Just call it $24.
But it doesn't even go to him like being able to eat.
Yeah, I know.
That's
They're paying the cooks.
They're not.
Paying the cooks.
They're paying the online service.
The online service is just like that's like drop shipping almost. You know what I mean? There's just like an online broker that's like,
you don't have to sit on anything.
Yeah. It's better.
Go buy a shirt at softcorehistory.com.
RIP drop shippers. If this China stuff sticks.
Sorry you had this like 4 to 5 year window where if you just got in on the right trends, you kind of made out.
Yeah.
Made some, creatine gummies.
Sorry you lost access to your slaves.
You're just a middleman, like you said. You don't own anything really. You don't sit on anything. You probably used AI tools to make your logo, your website.
Oh, yeah. That's a dream.
Mm-hmm. And then you just sit back.
When all your income is passive income.
you put up a bunch of TikToks that link to your product.
Love it.
Direct trade with China from Europe was paved by the Portuguese in 1557 when an outpost was leased from the Ming dynasty in Macau. Trade with the rest of Europe was only accelerated after the Spanish conquested the Philippines in 1565. In exchange for porcelain, silk, and tea, Spanish trading ships would bring over silver from South American mines, as the imperial government of China would only take payment for their goods in precious metals.
Smart.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to buy on credit.
They're also starting to create a deficit.
What, with who?
With everybody.
They're
like, we don't want your goods. We want fucking straight cash, homie.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't want to trade X for Y.
Mm-mm.
They wanted
silver.
Yep.
Silver.
All right.
That's it.
Tobacco or anything. Yeah.
No thanks.
Straight cash, homie.
None of your clocks. Give us the silver.
Yeah, we already know how to tell time. I don't care what you made. I know what time it is. Give me money. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Mm.
Maybe it didn't work out for them so well. Sounds like it's not going to work out for them so well.
China, like they had been throughout their entire history, was still very suspicious of their new networks and business partners. They set up specific ports where foreign trade could take place and put strict control measures on those locations so Europeans could not step foot anywhere else in the Red Dragon Kingdom. So they're like, you can stay in these ports.
Dude, I'm telling you, historically, like when people talk about isolationism in America, they talk about basically like the main thing in like history textbooks is the U.S. not wanting to get into World War I and World War II. World War I makes sense. That was fuck World War I. But isolationism was big running up to World War II because World War I was pretty brutal, even for the Americans, even for the 2 years we were there. A cup of coffee we were there. So they talk about isolationism and why it's bad and why if we didn't get into World War II specifically, things could have gone very badly. And that's true. And isolationism is bad if for the most part. Like you can't be everywhere all at once. That's stupid. But isolationism broadly bad.
Isn't that a Chinese film?
Everything everywhere. Yeah, I think so. It's Asian. Probably Chinese.
Yeah.
If I had to guess. But the best argument for why isolationism is bad is China. Like China missed the boat and missed their opportunity for like 500 fucking years. because they were just crazy and didn't want to open up. Like, they were easily the most put together kingdom in the world in the 1500s in terms of population and raw goods and everything else.
They weren't totally isolationist, though. They had the Silk Road.
I get
They
that.
still had merchants and traders
but they didn't
from
let
the
people
Middle
in.
East.
They didn't let people in.
Sometimes you gotta let people into your heart. China.
You do.
You gotta open
They
up.
could have been great. They could have been great. And now they're completely behind the eight ball the entire time. They fucked themselves by being too protectionist, too isolationist. It's fine to distrust a random country that's rolling up to your port with cannons and you're like, who are these fucking people? And they are fucking other places they've found for sure. But China was strong enough to push back, but they just didn't do it right. And they did it in a really isolationist, protectionist way that fucked them economically and technologically, and they paid the price. And I guess we're going to learn about that today.
All trade also had to go through the Chinese officials known as the Hong, who would tax and regulate Europeans as they saw fit. British ships began popping around the Chinese coast by the 1630s, and after the rise of the Qing dynasty in the 1640s, the British East India Company gradually became the power in the area for Sino-European relations.
Okay. Love the EIC.
We've done an episode on them before.
Yeah.
And we've probably...
Touch on some of this shit.
Yeah. By the middle of the 1700s, trade with Europeans was limited to one port, Canton.
That's crazy. You have a huge country. You're like their economic prosperity, everything. The other problem with the Chinese too is that I think their rulers were pretty harsh and had a tight grip on power. They're kind of like the Russians in that regard, right? You're like, oh man, the Soviet Union was crazy, but the thing is, like, the Russians have been ruled like that for 1,000 years, more or less. Like, the Russian monarchs were assholes too. China's the way it is now. It's not that much different. I mean, like in a 30,000 foot view, it's not that much different than it's ever been.
They're really creating a choke point too.
Yeah, like
Just
they're always
one
like that.
location, everybody funnels into it.
Yeah, it's always been like that in China. Like they're just the people in charge have a tight grip on power. They're really insular. Just fucked them.
I know. Imagine if all world trade was just going through the Suez Canal.
Only be a traffic jam.
We just had that one boat block and disrupt everything.
I mean, that happened anyway.
I know.
How'd they never prepare for that? Someone's just like, hey, what if a boat goes sideways in this bloody canal?
It would never go sideways.
They're like, nah,
You fucking
that wouldn't
idiot.
happen. How would that even happen, you idiot? Get out of here. Well, I'm just saying, block it up. Like, it's not going to happen, Nigel. Get the fuck out.
Do you think it was intentional?
No, it was just a shitty captain, probably. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know how you fuck up going through a canal. Like, it's the equivalent of hitting a parked car. Like, all you have to do is just this. But someone was driving it and was like,
How do you hit a bridge? What happened in Baltimore?
well, I guess the power went out on that ship. I don't know.
You can say the same thing about probably the boat in the Suez Canal.
Maybe. If the power went out, fair enough. But even then, the Suez Canal needs a contingency plan.
Yeah, well, there's got to be some type of manual way. We're going full auto on these boats.
Yeah. It's all driven by AI. You just hit that thing with an EMP and it craps its pants.
The system in Canton was highly regulated by Qing officials and the 20 or so merchant families that ran the Kohong monopoly. So just 20 powerful merchant families.
Right. Probably
Had all the
corrupted.
power, yeah.
Corrupt as shit. This is no free market economy. Nobody's, there's no competition.
We're
So
cashing. What's the problem?
yeah, they're stacking silver. They don't give a fuck about anybody else.
Each Hong merchant was then responsible for foreign trade partners that they did business with. Demand for these Chinese goods exploded, and European powers and their militarized trading companies were getting less and less thrilled with the way the Chinese were restricting them from making insane profits.
Right.
Like, hey, this is pretty good for us, but it could be better.
I don't understand how that. See, that's the thing too. Like the Chinese, they're just assholes, and they don't take the pitch. Like they're not. These guys are like, hey, you know how much more money we both could be making if you just opened up more? And the Chinese are just like, the people in charge are like, no, we're making enough, and we're happy where we're at.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with appreciating what you have?
Because most people are getting fucked by it.
Not being corrupted by greed.
Most people are getting fucked by it. It is greed. They are corrupted by greed. If they opened it up, they're afraid that they wouldn't get as much. They would only be X amount richer than the next closest person, they didn't want their people to become wealthy. They want to build a middle class more than that already existed.
Well, an official from the East India Company decides, fuck Canton and this corrupt monopoly we've been dealing with. I want to speak to the manager.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So he goes to Beijing to seek an audience with the imperial court. The Chinese were appalled by this brash move, and they end up slapping more restrictions on foreign trade for such.
Sure.
So he goes to seek an audience with the emperor and the imperial court, and they're just like, the fuck you doing here?
How does he even get there? They didn't know he was coming. They're like, hey, there's one white guy in the country on a wagon coming right at you.
I mean, they're already in the ports, and they're in Canton, so he can just kind of smuggle his way up there.
Okay. And he just, like, pops out of a
I don't know, dude.
it's like, ha! I'd like to talk to you about trade a little bit. It needs to open up. We're not doing enough.
At this point, the Brits were tea crazy. The average household of England spent 5% of their yearly income on tea.
It's, yeah. The tea got its hooks in them real good.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Import duties on tea alone made up for 10% of the British economy, and they were at a major trade deficit with China, sending millions of pounds of silver east. Between wars with other European powers, having restricted access to those South American silver mines, now that they had those conflicts with the European countries, and the British East India Company bleeding dough on their other conquests like India, England needed this whole China thing to come through.
Okay, what year is this?
So this is all in like the 1700s.
Okay.
So they send Earl George Macartney on behalf of King George III and the British East India Company to address the trade deficit by showcasing their own products of technology, including clocks, telescopes, weapons, carriages, and others to motivate the Chinese to purchase more British commodities.
I mean, I feel like fuck the clocks, but state-of-the-art muskets might have been of some use to the Chinese.
Maybe some upgrades to your ships.
Yeah. All kinds of things like that. Like, hey, you can expand your economy too. You want to conquer Japan, that other closed-off place? Some of our muskets and ships might help you do that.
After explaining to the Chinese officials that they had things to show the emperor, they met in his summer palace in Johor. They have trouble right off the bat when Macartney refuses to kowtow or bow and kneel before the emperor, as was tradition.
All right, what the fuck, man?
He thinks of himself as representing this great, most powerful nation in the world.
So he's like, I'm a representative of my crown.
Of England.
I'm not bowing to your crown.
Yeah.
Play the game, asshole.
And he ends up coming up with what he believes is a compromise. He said that he would kowtow so long as a Chinese official of his own social rank would do the same to a painting of King George III.
Jesus.
They laugh in his face.
Yeah. Play the game, douchebag. You know, go back and King George. It's still King. Maybe he was afraid because it is still King George, and by this point, King George is like violently insane with dementia or herpes or whatever was rotting his brain.
I think he just thought the British to be superior to the Chinese. He's like, I'm not going to bow to this dude.
Yeah.
And if I do, you got to return the favor.
I do appreciate that a hefty amount of racism on both sides was fueling this argument. Like, both of them looked at the other.
Right, because it wasn't just the British that thought themselves superior to the Chinese. The Chinese were like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
dude?
look at this fucking monkey.
Yeah.
This fucking dirt-covered baboon in his fancy coat walking in here. And
all
then
powdered up.
Yeah, and then he walks in and is like, good Lord, look at these slanty-eyed pieces of fucking... They don't even have guns. Like, fucking... Yeah, they're both just like racist as shit. And they can't get over it.
Eventually, Macartney does the whole song and dance, and he meets with the emperor. Macartney was showing off all the things he brought over to entice the emperor to want to open up trade for goods and products from England. But the emperor believed Macartney was offering up all these goods as tribute.
Well,
not an expo.
That's probably what he's used to.
Yeah. If you come to the palace, you're bringing me goods. You're giving me a gift.
Right.
I'm getting a little baggy.
Right. It's like me laying out a bunch of toys in front of my toddler. He thinks they're his. You know what I mean? Like there's no other option in his mind. If I show him like I lay out a cloth and put some toys on it,
Right.
his only thought is, "Oh, I got new toys."
You have to go to your toddler and be like, no, you got to trade me that toy
Yeah.
if you want this toy.
Well, it's like, okay, well, you can, if you get in the bath, you can take one of these toys with you. And he's like, no, all 5, and I'm going to my room to play.
Yeah. So it's essentially like dealing with your toddler.
I would imagine
You know
most
it.
monarchs were like toddlers. So
Despite sending back a handwritten letter thanking George for the tribute, the Chinese emperor rejected the idea of opening more trading ports to the foreigners.
because he's rich enough.
Mm-hmm. This convinced the British and other Europeans that China needed to be shaken up a bit if they truly wanted to maximize profits.
I'm telling you, they didn't want other influence in their country. Like, they were protectionists, they were isolationists. They wanted to keep, it was probably out of racism too for them. They were like, we got to keep China,
Yeah.
right? We got to keep China pure.
It was also probably a good idea.
I mean, look,
Then dealing with these
yeah, they were butt fucking India.
these Europeans that were
Just because you're right about a person doesn't mean every action you take because you were right about them is also right.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, this person's lying to me, you shouldn't shoot them in the face.
Yeah.
That feels like what he took the most drastic measure possible over his rightful suspicion.
You just take their word for a lie. You don't have to necessarily kill them for it.
You can still, by the way, open up trade while restricting it and setting rules.
Mm-hmm.
But they just brick wall.
They have a glory hole of trade.
There's a traffic jam in that glory hole.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't want that in a glory hole.
No traffic jam? Sounds like a nightmare.
You're fitting too many dicks in that glory hole.
You don't want to get in a fender bender
Uh-uh.
in line.
It gets messy real quick.
Real fast.
It all culminated when the Brits got this wild idea from their struggles in adaptive nature in India. Someone in the East India Company figured out, oh, wow, poppy grows incredibly well in these parts. They, of course, converted the poppy to opium and set up a market pushing the drug in Calcutta. So that's like kind of the closest Indian port to China.
Okay.
And since opium was illegal in China, the East India Company of England could not directly just sling the drugs on the corner of Canton.
Okay. Perfect.
So they used some faceless smugglers to get the ball moving and the Chinese market and population addicted.
God.
They had a bunch of pirates and smugglers go into Canton and just like drop a shit ton of opium into the public.
Get the fucking hooks in.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Probably would have been better to just buy the clocks.
Probably.
Just buy the clocks. Just bow to the emperor. Just buy the clocks. This is a trade war, right? I mean, this is a trade war at this point.
This is an actual trade war. Private contractors, backed by the East India Company and English government, started flooding the Chinese with some of the most potent opium in the world. It was a smash hit operation that only amplified when the Brits got rid of the East India Company's exclusivity to the opium trade in 1833.
All right, we got to open this up so I can two well boys. Now you're the bottleneck.
We need some more
it's not enough.
ships. By 1839, close to 6 million pounds of opium would flood into China a year.
Good God.
That's a lot of opium.
And you said it was strong opium too, so you're just like throwing
Much stronger than what the Chinese were used to.
you're throwing like somebody's. Just to use my own analogy here, somebody's rocking 3 milligram zins, and you just start jamming
200 milligrams.
Yeah.
The emperor appointed an official to try to combat the tidal wave of drugs wiping out his kingdom. Len Zhaoshu was the man for the job, and he went down to Canton and tried to hit back on the opium trade as hard as he could.
Probably could have used some new guns for that.
Thousands of
maybe
Chinese
some new muskets would have helped.
were placed under arrest for the distribution of the drug. Addicts were forced into rehabilitation, and Len showed up to the foreign warehouses to confiscate every ounce of opium.
This is not the way to do it. What I would have done if I was Len Shi is start handing out safe, clean opium pipes. to all of them.
Well, he saw a pipe, he took it.
And no, that's wrong.
I know.
You maybe take it because it's dirty and give them a clean one, and you give them some safe areas near schools and places of business where they can do as much opium as they want.
Uh-huh.
That's the smart thing to do.
I mean, it works well in Kensington.
All an addict needs is just a little more time to do their drugs safely. And then they'll need to do it again. But eventually it might work out. They're happy, and that's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, like, you know how, like, in Butterfly Effect, the guy could, like, go back in time inside his own body? You know what I mean?
No, I didn't watch the movie.
Okay, it sucks. But that's like a thing in the movie is he can go back in time in like his own body. He can go back to like previous times in his life, essentially. And he's like his 12-year-old self, his 8-year-old self, his 20-year-old self, whatever.
And it has a butterfly effect when he changes things.
Yeah. So what I want to do with that is go back to like my 7th grade DARE class, and when the police officers there being like, can't do cocaine, can't drink too much, don't smoke reefer. I just want to be like, Officer Plump. I think his name was Officer Plump.
Mm-hmm.
Officer Plump, what if I was allowed to do the heroin, but you just made sure my needles were clean and the place I was doing it was safe and that I could do as much heroin as I wanted to? And just like watch the reaction.
Yeah.
To a 90s cop being like, probably just take his nightstick out, be like, I don't care.
They're losing their minds now.
Like, I don't care. This
Like,
idea is
what is happening in
This
the
idea is
Pacific
too
Northwest?
fucking stupid to let you not get smacked in the head.
At one point, Len had to go to a foreign warehouse and open up siege for months.
Oh yeah, had to put he like put a warehouse under siege.
Yeah. They just wouldn't give up the drugs. Like,
I mean,
we're not opening up for you, dude.
yeah.
We don't have to abide by Chinese law. All right.
This technically isn't China.
It's like its own foreign port thing.
They own that like little specific area.
Yeah. Kind of. It's a gray area.
Yeah.
Because Len is obviously like, no, you're on Chinese land. You go by Chinese law.
Yeah.
Give up the drugs. Nobody gets hurt.
They just keep the door locked and like, yeah, if you come in here, we got better muskets than you do.
Ultimately, though,
fucking try.
they finally give up, and Len, at one point, burns 21,000 chests of opium.
Worth anyone allowed near?
Caused British merchants to lose their damn minds over that loss.
Yeah.
A lot of money lost there.
I'm just wondering if any addicts were just like running towards the fire.
I don't think they did it in like a open space for everyone to inhale it.
You just do it like on the outskirts of the city in an opium. You just get more people addicted. Like the opium cloud, the winds change, and it's just like
Goes into like the soil.
everyone's the groundwater. Like everyone's just high as fuck. Everyone's addicted now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a baby that's born addicted to crack, and it's just like going bananas with withdrawals.
Or just like a bonfire for like a high school football team, but with opium.
That'd be funny if someone just threw like a brick of opium or weed or something into a high school bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Spike and the Punch, but more 21st century.
Lin demanded that all foreign merchants and Qing officials sign a new bond promising not to deal opium under penalty of death.
Yeah, sounds right.
Around the same time, British sailors got drunk off rice liquor and beat the absolute life out of a Chinese man. Killed him.
Okay. Look,
Mark Wahlberg'd him.
it's just sailor stuff.
Mm-hmm. Charles Elliot offered a reward for the capture of these 2 sailors and gave money to the victim's family to try to ease over tensions.
I like that was the international incident, but not that they had warehouses full of illegal drugs
That
they
were
were
under siege.
hooking the citizens on. Like that, I would have imagined that would have closed down trade. I mean, like the emperor would have been like, "We're done, we're fucking done." But it was two idiots that just beat the shit out of a guy.
I was just like a fucking villager.
Yeah,
Just a nobody.
like, hey, you can't do that to our pledges. Only we can do that to our pledges. So that's why I imagine the Chinese reaction more or less was.
Well, when the sailors were caught, Elliot tried to get them onto the boat and sentence them to hard labor back in England, much to the dismay of Len Zhaoshu, who's like, what?
No, they're gonna die here.
Yeah, the fuck those dudes.
Honestly, again, play the game. Those guys are worthless. They are murderers. Just let them be executed by the fucking Chinese.
Len believed they should answer to Chinese law from crimes committed on Chinese land.
I agree completely, actually. Like, fuck those guys.
In response, Lin then stopped providing food to English merchants in China. He's like, all right, you're not going to give us these guys? We don't have to provide you with fucking food.
Yeah.
Water.
No more rice bowls for you.
Try to live here.
Rice wine? Out of the question at this
Try
point.
to live here. We're not going to provide you with shit.
Yeah.
It's going to be real hard for
I
you.
guess, like, was the British guy like, oh, well, the other sailors would be quite mad if I, gave them over to these fucking monkeys,
I mean, it was an international incident when the fucking American kid in the 90s got lashed.
Well, he deserved it, too.
Yeah. But who was that?
I don't know. He got caned.
It was in Singapore?
In Singapore. If you go to Singapore and you fuck around, you absolutely deserve it. The same way, if you're like, I'm going to bicycle through Syria, you don't deserve the government's.
Or a class trip to North Korea?
It wasn't even a class trip. He was on a class trip somewhere else and then booked his own shit to North Korea.
R.I.P. Otto.
Also, don't feel bad at all. It's literally sticking your head in a fucking tiger's
That
mouth.
banner would have looked sick in his dorm, though.
In his fraternity. I used it in a fraternity.
Yeah.
Would have looked sick in his frat house.
I know.
I got this shit from North Korea. Then some chick still doesn't fuck him. Like,
sad.
not worth it.
Put his life on the line. I think that's my biggest regret. Was making a GIF of Otto Warmbier just breaking rocks like a Looney Tune. Because
that was before he died.
It was before he died. I was under the impression that Trump had worked out the deal to get him back.
He was no. He was getting beaten to death.
Right, but we put it on the radar, right? Like, we were the first people at the time, it was me, Jake, and Jared on the TFM podcast, and we were just bringing national attention to Otto Warmbier, and we're like, hey, get our baby boy home.
God.
And then I don't know, it picked up steam. Trump was like, all right, I'll do it, and then the news came out like Otto's coming home, but then news slowly started to leak out.
Someone wished for it on a monkey paw.
Oh yeah, he's brain dead.
Yeah. How'd that happen?
North Korea stuff.
Yeah, just North Korea stuff.
Working in a camp.
Something, dude. I think they said he got sick, and I don't buy that at all.
No, he got bashed over the head.
Yeah, so they're just like a bunch of dudes, just like a bunch of North Korean dudes who are just like, oh, hell yeah, we get to beat the shit out of an American. Let's go. And fair enough, that's their Super Bowl, which is why you shouldn't go to there.
Don't go to North Korea unless you're Dennis Rodman or the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah. For whatever reason,
he loves basketball. As long as you got a little game, you can ball a little bit. Un will respect you.
And you have to imagine Otto could not ball.
I don't think so. I think Un would like me. Obviously, I've already hyped him up so much. And
you're getting views.
Previous.
You got page views from him.
A previous life.
If he invited you, would you go?
I'd have to have guarantees in place.
Guarantees?
Yeah.
It's not a thing. He could tell you something. He can be like, I promise, Dan, I won't murder you in the country I control completely. I promise. And you're like, well, okay, but America's going to get me back if you try anything. It's like, okay.
I'm going with a team of 50, special forces dudes.
Great.
And
what are they going to do?
They could take on the entire North Korean
It is technically one of the biggest armies in the world. Not one of the best, but one of the biggest.
I'm fine with that. 50 special op guys.
Yeah. See, now, other people, when we're talking about this, about how, oh, you deserve that for going to that country, I do not believe that is the case with Brittany Griner. I think Brittany Griner was set up
for smoking weed.
To fuck with America, and
probably. I'm still not going over to Russia to play ball.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Still not the worst country to play basketball in, though. Marshall Henderson played basketball in Iraq.
Yeah,
which
fuck that.
Weird choice.
He didn't get captured, so
yeah, I think I'd rather be an insurance salesman than play basketball in Iraq.
I guess depends. You see that's why you're not currently playing basketball.
You're right.
You don't love ball enough.
I don't.
That's how much you have. Like those dudes who play in Europe, like Israel and shit, they love ball. There was a Mizzou player who was like super mid.
Make
Like,
it about yourself, yes.
Yep, the most mid fucking dude, Matt Lawrence. God bless him. Good 3-point shooter, but pretty mid. He went to Norway after college and won their professional league's MVP.
Mm-hmm. There's so many. You can play in Greece. You can
I'm
play in
telling
Italy,
you, right now,
Spain.
you could start on a Norwegian professional team.
Probably.
Do it.
Okay.
Move the podcast to Norway. They all speak English.
Oh, they're the best.
Yeah, we'll get big there.
He then ordered the Portuguese to reject all English trade in Macau. This was all intended for the British to pack up shop and go home. Instead, they retreat to a little barren island off the coast, known as Hong Kong.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Elliot still needed food for his men and those on Hong Kong, so he sent British ships back to mainland China to buy food. Chinese boats intercepted them on the way and confiscated all the supplies.
Okay.
Elliot sets a deadline to give back the food and let the ships through. That deadline passes, and the British ships open fire on the Chinese vessels.
And I can't imagine that went well for the Chinese.
No, the Chinese war junks returned fire, and Chinese gunners on land began to fire at the British ships. Nightfall ended the battle, and the Chinese junks withdrew, ending what would be known as the Battle of Kowloon. None of the British ships sink. It's all Chinese junks, which appropriate name.
Yeah. Chinese junkers. I mean, at that point, like technologically, the Chinese, I feel like gunpowder-wise, like firearm-wise and ship-wise, are a good 100 years behind.
I thought gunpowder was invented in China.
Yeah, that doesn't mean they did the best.
They didn't perfect it. They just created it.
Right. White people invented basketball. Okay?
Yeah. Well, Canadian, if you want to count
Even
that.
better. That's an even better example. Canadians invented basketball. I mean, I guess a Canadian's going to undeservedly get the MVP this year, but otherwise.
And so the First Opium War officially begins. Having driven off the Chinese ships, the British fleet began to purchase provisions from the local villagers, often with the aid of bribed Chinese officials in Kowloon. Elliot ordered a blockade of British ships in the Pearl River so British merchants would not stoke flames with more opium smuggling. So they're like, all right, we got this area back. We'll just chill in Hong Kong. We'll have kind of local deals with these farmers in Kowloon. We don't have to, really escalate it too much. And we got to probably stop a lot of these British ships, these merchant ships coming in and out with the drugs.
Okay. I actually like, I don't know if this was a strategy, but it's a devious strategy if it is, which is getting them addicted to drugs and then cutting it off.
Yeah.
That's,
Make them go through withdrawal.
oh my God. That's a nightmare. I feel like there was probably a lot of British at the time that were like, man, we're doing gnarly shit. In fact, you know what colonies got treated the best?
No.
Ours.
Yeah.
We were the ones that were like, fuck you.
It'd be like that, though. We were spoiled.
Us in Canada, we were the two that were easily treated the best. And the United States was just like, I can't take this anymore. It's like a emo kid in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
My life is hell.
November 3rd, 1839, a British merchant ship by the name of the Royal Saxon tries to sail right through the blockade. The British naval vessels fire a warning shot, so it would not proceed. The Chinese hear that shot and believe they're being fired on.
Perfect.
They send out more war junks to confront the blockade, and 4 of them get, just immediately sunk.
Yeah, just absolutely crushed.
The Brits just wreck their shit, push it in.
I mean, this is, by the way, when the British Navy is the best in the world by far.
Yeah.
And so any British ships, any ship in the image of a British ship manned by British people is going to absolutely fuck you. And if your ship happens to be with tech that's it'd be like a fucking F-22 Raptor fighting against a goddamn World War II fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not fair.
Fearing that the Chinese would reject any contact with the British and eventually attack with fire rafts, because that was their only option to compete at night.
Yeah.
All right, let's not waste any more of our junks. What if we just throw in these little water landmines?
Yeah, little kamikaze guys. That's how the British the English, I guess, helped themselves win the battle with the Spanish Armada.
Mm-hmm.
It's a old tactic for sure.
And then Elliot orders all ships to leave to Macau. He contacted the Portuguese governor of Macau to let the British ships load and unload their goods in exchange for paying rents and any duties. But the governor refuses in fear that the Chinese would discontinue supplying food and other necessities. British government immediately began to assemble an expeditionary force, which they sent to the Far East in 1840 and arrived in China in June of 1840. The goal of this campaign was for the British forces to work their way up the Pearl River until they reached the city of Canton.
And by the way, so it's 1840 now. And I just, look, I'm not an expert, so I could be totally wrong on this. But it strikes me that, like, my gut tells me, and listen to your gut always, my gut tells me that Chinese military technology has not progressed a ton since the 1790s. And English military technology has been cutting edge the entire time. So the gap in military ability just keeps widening in favor of the British.
Mm-hmm. Along the way, they captured or destroyed several Chinese forts and strongholds. The military assault allowed the British forces to capture large sections of China, including Canton. While the Qing forces attempted to recapture significant locations, they were no match for the superior British weapons and tactics.
Okay.
Nanking is
Famous for another thing.
yeah, but before babies were getting chopped in half, and
Well, it was the rape of Nanking was the...
before they raped hundreds of thousands of women, probably.
Literally.
The British were threatening their way of life, and they're like, we're good. Don't fuck up Nanking. As a result, the war ended August 1842 with the signing of the Treaty of Nanking. Britain had won the war and secured itself a trade position in mainland China. One of the main outcomes of the Treaty of Nanking was the establishment of more open trading systems for foreign merchants. China was forced to have at least 5 trading ports outside of Canton. There was also special considerations made for British merchants at this trading post and controls placed on tariffs. Next, the Treaty of Nanking forced the Qing government to back pay the British for their losses in the opium crackdown.
Yeah, well.
You totally fucked over our population with the opium. Here's the money for that.
Yeah, here's the money for the drugs you made them do.
Also, they were not held accountable to local Chinese law. So these British ports,
Finally,
British law.
a sailor can just beat the shit out of a peasant without having to worry.
Not to answer for his crimes.
I think that's a Bruce Springsteen song. Shouldn't have to pay for beating a Chinese man up in China.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I remember listening to that song mowing the lawn at my house.
Yeah.
Because my parents would just always play Bruce. And
Red bandana on.
whenever I was doing chores. So it sounds right.
Blue collar.
I usually checked out on the lyrics, but
That was one of the songs, yeah.
yeah.
Beating up a Chinese man in a port. It's English law, and he's not a human under English law. Bruce spoke to the working man like no one else.
People don't know this. People refuse to admit this. But Bruce was always loyal to the crown.
Always. Always.
Finally, Britain controlled the island of Hong Kong as part of the Nanking Treaty. More formally, Hong Kong was ceded to Queen Victoria and remained under control of the British until 1997, when it was then returned to the People's Republic of China.
And everyone in Hong Kong was like, no.
Yeah. Because
no.
initially they just took Hong Kong in these first Opium Wars. After the second Opium Wars, they make this whole deal where it's like, oh, we'll only sit on China for or we'll sit on Hong Kong for 99 years.
100-year lease, yeah, 99-year lease, something like that. But I really can't be stressed enough how in 1997 all of Hong Kong was like, God damn it.
We're good with our current situation.
We like it much better than what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Which is why Hong Kong's still like a hotbed of protesting and shit like that, because some of those people had tasted freedom and they don't much care for what they're currently dealing with.
No. But still, like, the fucking capital of all their money-making operations for the most part.
Who, China?
Yeah.
Yeah, it got turned into, like, their New York, kind of, I feel like. Like, it's their like, economic center,
Yeah, so it's...
I think.
A few spots in China aren't, like, totally communist.
They're trying.
They're trying, but they're also... They like a little bit of capitalism.
They got to... Yeah.
When it pays the bills.
They got to pay the bills. That's the problem.
What did you learn today?
I mean, I didn't really know much about the Opium Wars, so pretty much everything. It is funny that was... I guess I didn't realize how direct of a plan it was.
That they're just going to use kind of third parties to infest China
Yeah.
with this drug.
Yeah. I didn't realize how planned it was.
Yeah.
I really more thought it was just like, oh, they brought opium into China, and boy, did China like opium.
It was a bunch of circumstances. Like, India was costing the East India Trading Company millions of pounds. Like, I think they were like 28 million in the hole
On India?
on India.
Why?
Just constant battles and fights, and
Yeah, that makes sense.
it's just a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. Hard place to
Yeah.
govern.
So they get Calcutta all set up, but like, yeah, they're massively in debt from that. They're like, oh, opium grows pretty well here, because they initially set up India as kind of a place to maybe grow cotton
Yeah.
to make up for the loss of, U.S.
I believe they eventually figured that out in Egypt.
Yeah, but India cotton does not grow well.
No, that was one of the things that fucked the South in the Civil War, is that England figured out, like, oh, it's cool, we can grow
Egyptian
in Egypt.
cotton.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. We don't have to get into this fucking war. Oh.
No one's buying India cotton bed sheets.
No, they're definitely not. Yeah, I didn't know how intentional it was. Not that it doesn't surprise me, but I didn't realize how planned it was, I guess.
So does it really surprise you if, maybe China's responsible for the fentanyl crisis in the U.S.?
Oh, that's a conspiracy that I actually, like, buy. Like, a lot of, whatever, mole people built the pyramids, or whatever the fuck you people believe. But
It's part of the trade war.
blah, 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 this, blah. Hitler didn't die in World War II. But China being, like, just because they hold a deeper national, like, they hold on to national trauma longer than we do, certainly. We barely care about the people 10 years older than us.
China has a bit of a longer point of view.
Yeah, so I think they definitely, part of them is like, yeah.
Which is why they don't allow Chinese TikTok
Mm-hmm.
in their own country.
China the West poisoned us, so now we're going to poison the king of the West. It's not even the UK anymore, so it's us. I buy that.
They're still doing it to England, probably.
I'm sure they are, but I buy fully that there's, like, some intent behind that, and it's directly related to the Opium Wars. Like, I, without a doubt, just believe that.
Who was today's Hitler?
Honestly, dude, it's the Chinese emperor. Just do business, bro. Just do because the reason this all happened at the end of the day is because a few powerful people didn't want to let money flow in to the rest of their country.
They didn't trust Whitey.
I don't
Maybe
care.
it was more of a, like, supremacy thing, like we said earlier.
Oh, yeah, this was like a double racism fight. But part of it, to me, seems like the Chinese ruling class was very happy with their situation and didn't want their population that they ruled completely to have outside influence or extra cash flow or anything like that. And this is what happened. By the way, the only people that really suffered were the people that they were trying to fuck over.
Maybe they just fucked with the Portuguese better than the English.
Portugal's not a serious country, so I assume they were much easier to deal with.
They were a serious country at that point.
They had a cup of coffee, as you like to say.
They got Brazil.
They had a cup of coffee.
They ruled the seas for 200 years.
I don't know if 200 seems generous.
You can't sleep on the Portuguese Navy.
I am. I'm fucking sound asleep on the
They
Portuguese.
circumnavigated the world.
I guess.
Magellan is Portuguese.
Yeah, well, he didn't do it. He only got halfway.
Just because he got in the Philippines. It wasn't on water.
I'm just saying.
His crew did.
I think only 18 people survived that trip.
Might have to do a Magellan episode.
It's a funny story about just how brutal that trip was.
I also feel like, so he's from Portugal, but he doesn't sail under Portuguese banners. I think he did under
Spanish
flag.
Yeah, I think so.
So the Portuguese, when I was there, they have kind of like a love-hate relationship with Magellan.
Well, I mean, the Italians claim Columbus because he's Italian.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, he's Jewish.
yeah, he is Jewish. But did it under a Spanish flag, so. But yeah, that's my Hitler, is the Chinese ruling class.
Okay. Not the drug dealers. The smugglers of opium
Nah.
to a population, getting them addicted and then making them go through major withdrawals.
They set the whole thing off. Maybe
Maybe
it's fine to not trust
Maybe those
them.
clocks and carriages sucked.
It's fine to not trust them. But their motivations, I guarantee you, were to just maintain their power. Their power. Not China's power. Their power over China. Different thing.
I mean, when we came over, are you going to blame the natives' descent on not willing to trade with, the Europeans?
Totally different. They were like Neolithic people. Like China was a whole ass country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, China could have done it right. They didn't do it right.
Okay. Well, Rob, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/softcore history. We get 2 additional episodes every week, Wednesday and Friday. Last week, we did an episode on where the Garden of Eden perhaps
have been.
is, where it is.
There's
maybe
some
it
hot
is.
new theories on where the Garden of Eden was.
We also, again, covered this Chinese baddie from the 700s and her wiping out essentially her entire bloodline
Yeah.
to get power, kind of set up her dynasty for about 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
Did a pretty good job otherwise, but she was pretty ruthless.
Yeah. She was good in between the murders of her children.
And then we got episodes coming up this week. I have no idea what the topic's going to be.
We don't know yet.
Because Rob hasn't written it.
I don't know yet. I'll write it tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole list of stuff, but I just got to pick one.
Yeah. And perhaps a new sketch coming out soon?
Yeah. I'm doing a final pass on it, and then we'll be ready to record.
Okay. But what's the ETA on that?
2 weeks.
Okay. For release? 2 weeks release?
3 weeks release.
Okay. Really hitting your quota.
I'm going to get 12 out.
year.
I'm going to get 12 out this year.
12 original sketches this year.
Yeah. It just, part of it depends on talent availability, because I want to get Jack in it.
Okay, I thought that was a subtle shot at me.
No. I know you're available. You're in it too, but I need Jack for it, and Boosh for it as well, I think, and my own wife for it as well.
Okay. We always need your wife's mouth.
Yeah.
Whenever possible.
Yeah, exactly. And Gabby actually as well. It's a big undertaking, this one.
It's a whole ensemble.
Yeah. This one's a big one.
Sign up now.
Yeah.
It'll be out soon.
I'm very excited for it, but it's a big one.
Yeah. Plus 3 years of evergreen content at this point. You will not be disappointed. There's no better deal, I don't think, in the podcasting realm.
I agree. Yeah, the next sketch after that's going to be a 10-minute radio play that I write in like 4 days and record in 1. But this one
is like an hour.
Is a whole ass thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, for Rob Fox, I'm Dan Regester. You just got saw served.